Put it all out in the open. No, we don't have to control it. Put it all out in the open. If it's only for a moment, it's a lifetime of emotion. Put it all out in the open.
So first things first, on this particular day I was jump schooling off property, so I loaded him into my trailer first, and then we drove about 10 minutes down the road to go to another barn to jump school. Once he unloads, I tie him to the trailer and I start my grooming routine. Milo has very sensitive skin, so the first item that I use to groom him is a tiger's tongue, or it's a pumice stone, or a grooming block. It has a lot of different names, and basically it's just a black block that is slightly textured, and it's good for getting mud and loose hair off. He likes this one, and he's not as fussy about it. He does not like any of the metal shedding brushes or anything like that, so I have to use stuff that's a lot more mild on him. You'll also notice him playing with his tongue a lot, and that is just because I just gave him treats just before this, so he is trying to get the last couple of tastes because he is a fat boy. Next I brush his forelock, and for this I use a bristled brush with stiff bristles. This particular one is the Biomane brush, and the reason behind using this is because it removes less hair than a lot of mane and tail brushes do, so I like it. And then I use a stiff bristled brush all over his body to remove any of the dirt that the tiger tongue brush missed. Next I do my leg protection, and here I'm using the Incrediwear bandages. I really like these ones because they are more like a tensor type material, so they're better for wrapping for compression, and they also have the therapeutic benefits that Incrediwear offers, so these are my favorite wraps. I don't use any back boots or bandages on Milo because he doesn't really like them, and he also doesn't cross over or hit his legs behind. And then for my saddle pad, I'm using one of the Dapple Equestrian jumping pads, which I love. They're really good quality, and the underside of them is ventilated and sweat wicking, so they stay a lot cleaner and they breathe more than some of the traditional styles of saddle pads do. Plus, I really love this color on Milo. I think it looks fantastic on him, and green is definitely his color. Then I grab my saddle, which is the Amerigo CC event saddle. It's a monoflap saddle, and it is custom fit to Milo, so I don't need to use a half pad underneath of it unless I'm using a really thin saddle pad, and then I might put a thin half pad underneath, but it doesn't need one because it's custom fit to him. You'll also notice that I pull the front of the saddle pad up so that it tents off the wither, and the point of this is so that he doesn't get wither rubs from the saddle pad pressing down on the wither. My saddle is full calfskin leather, so it's really nice and sticky, and it's low profile, so it keeps you close to the horse, and the monoflap lets you feel the horse quite a bit more. My flap on it is an extra forward longer flap because I have a really long femur. Girth that I'm using is a sheepskin Leveza girth, and it's really nice and soft. It's really great for sensitive horses, and it kind of just feels like a cloud. Like, I really like this girth because for any horse that's sensitive to the girth, they like this one. You'll notice me struggling to do up the girth a little bit, and that's just because with new billets, they're really hard to get a grip on because they're not broken in or stretchy at all, so it can be hard to get the girth done up on them, and I'm not just cranking the girth onto him, it's just that they're still really stiff because the saddle is new. So I'm sure you've noticed that my saddle doesn't have stirrups on it, and you're probably wondering why I'm putting them on after, and the only reason for this is because I do not want my stirrups to scratch my saddle, and I haven't bought stirrup covers to put on them yet, so I just take them off after every ride and store my saddle without the stirrups. So I'm just putting them on right before my ride so that I don't have to have them run up on the flap and risk it getting scratched. The stirrups that I use are the Tack Stirrups Venice Light stirrups, and they are a safety stirrup, so if a foot gets caught, they do open and release so you can get out. And I really like these ones for that reason. It makes me feel a lot safer, and they are really classy looking in my opinion. I got the black and rose gold color, and I really like them. Next, we do the bridle. My bridle is a Barnes Tack Room jumper bridle that I'm using on him, and the bit on it is the Centaur Eco Pure Egg Butt. If you want to know more about my bits, I recently posted a video about this, and I'll leave the link in the description where it goes into them more. I use a pretty basic snaffle on him. It's very soft. I don't use a martingale because I find it impedes his ability to stretch out his neck after the jumps, and he doesn't need one. I ride a lot of different horses, so you'll notice that I have to adjust the bridle because I had it on a much smaller horse before and it's too short for him. I also always make sure that my noseband has at least 2 fingers room. I usually double that and have it have even more, but they should never be tight enough that you cannot fit 2 fingers underneath. My noseband is mostly just for aesthetics. I don't really use it for any other purpose because I leave them so loose. So now we are all tacked and ready to ride. I walk him down to the arena, and right before I get on, I always check my girth again to make sure it is nice and tight. And then I hop on and we start our warm-up. Our warm-up mostly consists of lateral work, and we do a lot of walking in the beginning. So I start off my walk work with shoulder in and haunches in and leg yielding, and then as he loosens up and gets warmed up at the walk, I'll start doing the stuff that I was doing at the walk, at the trot, and then at the canter. Unfortunately, a lot of my warm-up on this day didn't get filmed, so I can't really show you all of that, but the purpose of doing all of that is to get him loose and stretching down and out, and just make sure that he's nice and relaxed before we start our jump school. After a good warm-up, we start jumping, and we start over the smaller cavalettis, doing little bounces and single jumps, and just making sure he's approaching them nice and quiet and not really running forward at the jumps. Milo typically does not rush jumps, so that's not really much of a concern for him most days. And this day he was actually particularly lazy for him, so he approaches them really nicely and calmly. I'm different from a lot of North American hunter jumper or jumper style riders in that I almost always full seat. I do half seat on him sometimes, but I find that full seat allows you to communicate with your seat a lot more and a lot less with your hands. And I find that he's way more of a seat ride than a hand ride, so I do prefer to sit. And I will never half seat going up to a jump within like the last 5 strides before the jump. I'm always sitting. And the reason for that is for the seat aids, but also because since he does sometimes stop, it's just not safe to be far out of the tack. Something I've been working on a lot with Milo is getting him to jump out from under the base of the jump, and the reason behind this is because since he does stop sometimes, when he gets close distances in the past, it has caused him to stop. So he started doing far away distances and taking a lot of long spots. So I've been working on getting him to stop doing that and to jump out from the base. So if he gets a close distance now, it doesn't really bother me because if he goes from it, it's productive for him and it's a positive change from where we were in the past because he definitely preferred to take long spots so he didn't have to look at the jump as closely before he jumped it. So yeah, that was a pretty typical day for us for a jump school and practicing coursework off property. I do try to get Milo off property quite a lot because he is a lot better and braver at home, so it's less productive to have our jump schools at home most of the time when most of his problems arise off property. So it is important to get him out and off property often. Obviously now with the pandemic this isn't happening. All of this riding footage was before they made all the sanctions to stay home and whatnot in my area. So these are old clips. Everyone stay safe during the pandemic, and I hope all of you guys are staying healthy. And like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this. And don't forget to turn on post notifications because I am trying to post more since everyone is on lockdown and there's not an awful lot to do.